There we are. We're rolling. Hi again. The emphasis some people have pointed out to me in my book, Listen to You Disappear, is a lot about listening to yourself. But there's plenty in there about listening to others as well. And that's what I'd like to focus on today. Because your relationships are the most important structure in your life. What I mean by structure is something that holds things in place. Your calendar is a structure for holding your appointments in place. Your house is a structure for holding shelter over your head. Your belief system is a structure for holding certain practices in place as well. We are inescapably social creatures. We can't even get anything we want in life without understanding each other. You need to know what others are communicating, and they need to know what you have to say as well. Generally, we think we know what they're saying, but we're actually listening to our own thinking about them and not actually to them most of the time. I'll tell you how to get out of this trap, but first I want you to notice that those times when you really did get somebody, you totally grokked what they were trying to say, did you notice how they started to immediately change? Talk about something else? Move on? After all, they had been heard, right? They didn't need to keep reasserting. So now what I'm about to say is absolutely crucial for listening to others. If you want to hear what another human being is really trying to communicate, this will require losing your agenda. You've got to listen from the other understanding that there's nothing wrong, nothing to fix, there's nothing that you can contribute, there's nowhere to get to, there's no need to fill, and there's no particular way that either of you should feel about this communication. You might feel good, and you might not. So you want to listen so deeply, making the listening so much more important than anything else, like what's in your mind or your personality, that you hear them in a way that they've never been heard before. You connect with them with nothing in between. That's going to make a very big difference because you got out of the way. Once you genuinely hear what's going on in the world and they don't have to keep reasserting themselves in the same way, they become empowered. They become empowered to reach further and higher to fulfill their potential. Now, all of this explains why mirroring is the supreme means to hearing others. Mirroring means repeating back in your own words what you heard the other person say. Now, I first experienced this when the power of this, when I was a graduate student, completing my doctorate. I was finding it hard to make it to the end, to sustain the academic life. I was talking to my friend Bob about the many hours that I spent alone researching and writing, and the frustrating gap between this work that I was doing and the real issues that I wanted to address out in the world. And Bob's simple reproduction was, well, it sounds like you want your work to make a difference in the world. That was the essence of my mounting frustration. And he got it. And that shifted everything. From that moment on, my life took a different turn. I had been heard. Long story short, I became a coach instead of an academic. I also employed mirroring myself to great effect in my relationship with my father. He used to tell tale after tale about the family orchard where he grew up. And finally one day I stopped my resistance to hearing these stories that he was telling, and I just mirrored back the pride, that I heard in his voice and in his telling of the story, in himself and in his family, in their industry and their enterprise. I even showed him that I recognized these same traits in the way that he and Mom had raised the 3 boys and developed their careers and impacted the community that we lived in as well. He was delighted that I got it, and he started to tell a different story after that. The combination of hearing your own self-talk, quieting the mind, and allowing others to really be heard without obstacle will lead you to putting some very satisfying closure on the parts of your past that no longer serve you. It will clear that vast space for you to create the life that you want. When you mirror people, the intention is to display that you have really understood them. So the key is not to change anything about the import of what they're saying, right? That wouldn't be to get them. And then reproduce what you heard in your own words. You use your own words so that you can show that you've digested it, right? And you get what they mean to communicate. Then you reflect that back in an unbiased way. You know, you don't have to agree with it, and you don't have to disagree with it, right? Don't challenge the interpretation, and don't make it harder for them. By remaining neutral, you give them the sense that this exchange is safe, that there's no need for pretense. We can all be our real selves here and address the reality of the situation. That's the impression you want to give. The success of your contributing to others turns out not to be based on your interjecting anything or getting them to see things your way. Instead, it's based on your ability to give them a clean reflection of themselves. If you'd like more help with communication, feel free to contact me at listeningisthekey.com or 303-747-4449. Thank you.